The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy sat in their elevated pods, their attention fixed on the massive holographic display floating in the center of the room. The image showed a small fleet of ships approaching the Council's space station. "These are the human vessels?" asked Head Counselor Davis, his 4 eyes blinking in surprise. His gray skin wrinkled as he leaned forward to study the image more closely. "Yes, Head Counselor," replied Military Advisor Wilson, trying to hide his smirk. "Their largest ship is barely 1/3 the size of our smallest diplomatic vessel." A wave of laughter rippled through the chamber. Some council members didn't even try to hide their amusement, pointing at the hologram and whispering to their neighbors. The human ships looked like children's toys compared to the massive vessels that usually docked at the station. In the docking bay, Ambassador James Miller stood straight and proud as he waited for his ship to complete its landing sequence. He was a tall man with broad shoulders, dressed in a crisp blue uniform that represented Earth's United Space Command. His gray hair and weathered face spoke of years of experience, but his eyes remained sharp and alert. The human ships settled into their assigned spots with perfect precision. Their sleek, dark hulls gleamed under the station's lights. While small, each vessel displayed an elegant efficiency in its design that would have impressed any serious engineer. But the alien dockworkers were too busy chuckling among themselves to notice. "Look at that tiny thing," one worker said to another. "I've seen space yachts bigger than their flagship." Miller heard every comment, but kept his face neutral. On Earth, they had a saying, "Let them laugh who will laugh last." He had spent enough time in space to know that size wasn't everything. The welcome ceremony was even worse. The council chamber, designed to intimidate with its towering ceiling and massive architecture, felt especially overwhelming today. Miller stood on the speaker's platform, surrounded by representatives who made little effort to hide their disdain. "Welcome, Ambassador Miller," Head Counselor Davis said, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. "We trust your modest vessels had a comfortable journey." More snickers echoed through the chamber. "Our journey was excellent, thank you," Miller replied calmly. "Human ships are designed for efficiency and performance, not show." Of course, Davis said dismissively. "Now about your petition to join the Galactic Trade Alliance. We have some concerns about your ability to contribute meaningfully to our commerce networks." Miller took a deep breath. "With all due respect, Head Counselor, I believe you'll find our ships more than capable of handling any trade routes assigned to us." "Really?" interrupted Military Advisor Wilson. "And how do you propose to defend these trade routes? Surely you don't expect those miniature vessels to stand against pirates or raiders." The chamber erupted in open laughter now. Miller noticed several council members recording the scene with their personal devices, probably to share the joke with others later. Miller's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice remained steady. "We believe our ships will prove adequate for any situation they might encounter." "Well," Davis said, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes, "we shall see. For now, we will review your petition and inform you of our decision within the standard waiting period." As Miller left the chamber, he could still hear the laughter behind him. He pulled out his communicator and sent a brief message to Earth Command. "Council reception, as expected. Proceeding with Phase 1. Back in his ship, Miller looked out at the massive alien vessels surrounding his fleet. He smiled slightly, remembering the old videos of blue whales being outmaneuvered by dolphins. Size wasn't everything. Humanity had learned that lesson long ago. These aliens would learn it too, sooner or later. The tiny human fleet departed the next day, leaving behind a council still amused by their cute ships. None of them noticed the small drones that Miller's ships had deployed, quietly mapping the station's defenses and gathering data on the alien vessels. After all, who would expect any serious surveillance from such an insignificant fleet? 2 months after the council meeting, the human cargo ship named Swift Trader moved quietly through the outer trading lanes. Captain Robert Parker sat in his command chair, watching the stars drift by on his view screen. His ship might have been small by alien standards, but its holds were full of valuable Earth goods, coffee, spices, and handcrafted items that were becoming surprisingly popular among alien worlds. The ship's AI spoke up suddenly. "Captain, 3 Dominion warships approaching from Sector 7. Parker straightened in his chair. The Dominion was well known as the galaxy's bully, always pushing smaller races around. "Show me," he ordered. 3 massive purple-hulled ships appeared on the screen. Each one was at least 4 times larger than the Swift Trader. Their weapons ports were already open, a clear sign they weren't here for a friendly chat. "Human vessel," a rough voice boomed over the comm system. "This is Commander Brock of the Dominion Fleet. Your kind has not paid proper respect to superior races. We will teach you a lesson today." Parker pressed a button on his chair. "All hands, battle stations. Let's show them what a human ship can do." The 3 Dominion ships spread out, trying to trap the Swift Trader between them. Their massive engines glowed bright as they moved to surround the smaller vessel. "Human," Brock's voice came again, filled with laughter. "Your tiny ship has nowhere to run. Surrender now, and we might let you live as our servants." Parker smiled. "Computer, activate maneuver pattern Delta. Let's dance." What happened next would be talked about in space bars across 3 sectors for months to come. The Swift Trader suddenly dropped its pretense of being a slow cargo vessel. Its engines flared bright blue, and the ship spun on its axis with impossible speed. Before the Dominion ships could react, the human vessel shot straight up relative to their position, moving 3 times faster than anything its size should be capable of. "Impossible," Brock shouted. "After them." But the massive Dominion warships couldn't match the Swift Trader's maneuverability. Every time they tried to lock weapons, the human ship would slip away with quick, precise movements. It was like watching 3 elephants try to catch a hummingbird. "Sir," one of Brock's officers reported, "their engine output makes no sense. A ship that size shouldn't be able to move like that." The Swift Trader danced between asteroid fields that the larger ships had to go around. It pulled tight turns that would have torn apart ships twice its size. And all the while, Parker and his crew calmly went about their business, as if this was just another day at work. After 2 hours of failed pursuit, the Dominion ship's engines were overheating from the strain. Meanwhile, the Swift Trader looked like it could keep going all day. "Commander Brock," Parker finally called over the comm, "would you like to continue this dance, or shall we call it a day?" The fury in Brock's voice could have melted steel. "This isn't over, human. The Dominion will not forget this insult." As the 3 massive ships turned away, Parker opened a channel to his crew. "Good work, everyone. Log this encounter and send the usual report to Earth Command." This wasn't the first such incident, and it wouldn't be the last. Over the next few weeks, similar reports came in from across human space. The Dominion kept trying to bully human ships, and each time they left frustrated and angry. Their massive warships simply couldn't catch the smaller, faster human vessels. In the Dominion's central command, Brock stood before his superiors, his pride still stinging from the encounter. "These humans," he growled, "they make a mockery of us with their tiny ships. We must teach them their place." The Dominion War Council listened carefully. Their reputation was being damaged. Every failed attempt to catch a human ship made them look weaker. Something had to be done. "Perhaps," suggested one council member, "it's time to show these humans what a real fleet can do. Not just 3 ships, but 50 of our largest warships. Let's see their little vessels dance away from that." The council agreed. They would launch a minor invasion of human space, just enough ships to crush these upstart humans and their irritatingly efficient little vessels. Little did they know, this was exactly what Earth Command had been waiting for. 10 years earlier, in the massive underground facility of Earth's Space Development Center, Dr. Mark Adams stood before the World Space Council. Behind him, through the giant window, engineers worked on what would become humanity's first deep space warship. "Ladies and gentlemen," Adams said, pointing to the ship being built below, You're looking at the future of human space travel. And yes, it's small by design. The council members shifted in their seats. Some looked worried, others confused. Head Counselor Thompson spoke up first. Dr. Adams, we've seen the alien ships in our long-range scans. They're huge. Why are we building ships that look like toys compared to theirs? Adams smiled and pressed a button on his tablet. The room's holographic display came to life, showing detailed ship designs. Let me tell you a story, he began. In Earth's oceans, there's a tiny creature called a mantis shrimp. It's small, but pound for pound, it's one of the most powerful animals on Earth. That's what we're building here, the mantis shrimp of space. He walked through the hologram, pointing out different features. We can't match the aliens in size, and we shouldn't try. Earth doesn't have their resources, but we can be smarter about how we use what we have. The hologram changed to show engine designs. Our ships are 1/3 the size of alien vessels, but look at the power output. Smaller ships mean less mass. Less mass means more speed, better maneuverability. While they're building space battleships, we're building space fighter jets. In another part of the facility, Admiral Thomas Reed watched the construction through his office window. On his desk sat reports from the test flights of their first ships. Every test had exceeded expectations. Sir, his assistant entered with a new report. The latest engine tests are complete. The results are, well, they're better than we hoped. Reed picked up the report and smiled. Of course they are. You know why. Why, sir? Because we're human. Throughout history, we've won fights by being smarter, not bigger. The British Navy once ruled the seas not because they had the biggest ships, but because they had the best trained crews and the most efficient designs. He stood and walked to the window. The aliens think size equals power. They build huge ships because they can, not because they should. But we're building our ships like we build race cars. Every part has a purpose, no wasted space. Back in the presentation room, Adams was showing the council their secret weapon. This, he said, pointing to a small device in the hologram, is our gravity manipulation drive. It's small enough to fit in our ships, but powerful enough to change the rules of space combat. The aliens' big ships can't handle the G-forces our crews are trained for. We'll run circles around them. One council member raised her hand. But what about cargo space? Defense. Won't smaller ships mean less room for weapons and shields? Adams grinned. Actually, no. Watch this. He pressed another button, and the hologram showed the internal layout of their ship. We've developed new compression technology for cargo storage. As for weapons and shields, well, sometimes the best defense is not getting hit at all. The presentation continued, showing test after test where the smaller human ships outperformed all expectations. They could turn faster, accelerate quicker, and slit through spaces the larger alien ships would have to go around. In his office, Admiral Reed received another message. The alien races still hadn't detected their testing facility. They still thought Earth was just starting to build their first real ships. Let them think we're weak, Reed muttered. Let them laugh at our small ships. They'll learn soon enough. He picked up his phone and called Adams. How long until the fleet is ready? 3 months, Adams replied. We'll have 30 ships, fully crewed and combat ready. Good, Reed said, because something tells me we're going to need them sooner rather than later. He looked at another report on his desk. Intelligence suggesting the Dominion was getting frustrated with human ships avoiding their patrols. It was only a matter of time before they tried something bigger. Let them come, Reed said to himself. Our tiny fleet will be ready. Red warning lights flashed across Earth's defense headquarters as Admiral Reed strode into the command center. Officers rushed between stations, their faces tense but focused. Report, Reed ordered, taking his place at the central command station. Sir, 50 Dominion warships just entered the outer solar system, his second-in-command reported. Their ships are massive. Each one is at least 5 times larger than our biggest vessel. On the main screen, the Dominion fleet appeared as huge purple dots moving steadily toward Earth. Their ships looked like floating cities, bristling with weapons and covered in thick armor. "Send the message," Reed ordered calmly. Across all frequencies, in every language the aliens might understand, Earth broadcast its response. "This is Earth Command. You are entering protected space. Turn back now." The answer came quickly. The Dominion fleet commander's face appeared on the main screen, his alien features twisted in a sneer. "Protected? By what? Your tiny toys. We've seen your ships, humans. They're pathetic." Reed's expression didn't change. "This is your final warning. Leave now or face the consequences." The alien commander actually laughed. "Consequences? Look at our fleet. Each of our ships could crush your entire navy. But fine, show us these consequences." Reed pressed a button on his chair. "Launch the fleet." From hidden bases around Earth's solar system, 30 human ships appeared. They were small, sleek, and dark against the stars. Compared to the massive Dominion warships, they looked like speedboats facing off against aircraft carriers. The Dominion commander's laughter grew louder. "This is your defense fleet. 30 miniature ships. This is an insult." The alien's face disappeared from the screen, replaced by a broadcast to all ships. "Dominion warriors, look at these humans, sending such tiny ships against us. Let's show them what real power looks like." Full attack formation. The massive purple ships spread out in a classic attack pattern. Their weapon ports opened, revealing guns bigger than some human ships. Energy readings showed they were powering up their main weapons. In the command center, Reed watched calmly. An officer approached with a tablet. "Sir, all ships report ready. Operation David is go." Reed nodded. "Send the code phrase." Across the human fleet, captains received the same message. "Remember the mantis shrimp." The Dominion fleet moved forward slowly, their huge engines pushing the massive ships through space. They arranged themselves in a wall formation, ready to unleash a devastating first strike. "Look at them," the Dominion commander broadcast again. "They're not even running away. This will be the easiest victory in Dominion history." Reed picked up his communicator. "All ships, execute attack pattern Sigma." What happened next made the Dominion commander stop laughing. The 30 human ships suddenly accelerated to speeds the aliens had never seen before. Instead of forming a defensive line, they split into smaller groups, moving with precision that seemed impossible for their size. What are they doing?" the Dominion commander demanded. "Stop them. Fire the main guns." But the human ships were already moving too fast, weaving between the massive alien vessels with incredible agility. The Dominion's huge weapons were useless. They couldn't track targets moving that quickly. "Impossible," shouted the Dominion commander. "Nothing can move that fast." Their crews would be crushed by the G-forces. In his command chair, Reed allowed himself a small smile. "They still don't understand," he said quietly. "Show them what else our tiny ships can do." The human fleet continued their dance through the Dominion formation, moving in patterns that looked random but were actually carefully planned. Each movement brought them closer to key positions around the alien fleet. "Sir," an officer reported to Reed, "all ships in position. Ready for Phase 2. Reed nodded. "Send the signal. Let's show them why size isn't everything." The real battle was about to begin, and the Dominion was about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating humanity's tiny fleet. "Fire!" The Dominion commander's order echoed across space. 50 massive warships unleashed their weapons, filling space with energy beams and missiles. It looked like enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But the human ships weren't there anymore. Using their gravity manipulation drives, the Earth vessels performed maneuvers that seemed to break the laws of physics. They twisted and turned at angles that should have torn them apart. Every human pilot moved with perfect precision, their smaller ships dancing through the gaps in the Dominion's attack. "How?" The Dominion commander slammed his fist on his chair. How are they avoiding everything? On the lead human ship, Captain Jack Stone spoke calmly to his fleet. Execute attack pattern Delta. Target their weapon ports precisely. Remember your training. The 30 human ships split into 3 groups of 10. Each group spun and weaved through the enemy formation, moving so fast they looked like blurs on the Dominion sensors. "Sir," a Dominion officer shouted, "our targeting systems can't lock onto them. They're moving too fast." The human ships began their real attack. They didn't aim for the centers of the Dominion ships that would have been useless against their thick armor. Instead, they targeted specific weak points that their scans had revealed. The first human group hit the Dominion's weapon ports. Their smaller but more focused weapons struck with surgical precision. Explosions bloomed across the massive purple ships as their main guns overloaded. "Second group now," Stone ordered. The next 10 human ships activated their secret weapon. Small devices shot out from their hulls, attaching to the Dominion ships. These devices created localized gravity fields, throwing off the alien ship's balance and disrupting their formation. "What's happening?" The Dominion commander watched in horror as his perfectly arranged fleet began to drift out of position. "Why can't we maintain formation?" The third group of human ships struck at the engines, their weapons precisely targeting the massive propulsion systems of the Dominion vessels. They didn't try to destroy the engines. They just damaged them enough to reduce the big ship's mobility even further. In Earth's command center, Admiral Reed watched the battle unfold. "Like watching ballet dancers against sumo wrestlers," he muttered. The Dominion fleet tried to regroup, but their size worked against them. Every turn took too long. Every movement was too slow. The human ships could complete 3 attack runs in the time it took one Dominion ship to change direction. "Fire everything," the Dominion commander screamed. "They can't dodge forever." But they could. The human crews, protected by their gravity manipulation technology, pulled maneuvers that would have killed unprotected pilots. Their ships spun, rolled, and accelerated in ways that made them almost impossible to hit. "Charlie Group, begin Phase 3, Stone ordered. 10 human ships formed up and began a complex series of movements. They wove between 3 Dominion ships, their gravity devices creating a web of conflicting gravitational fields. The massive alien ships, unable to compensate, started drifting into each other. "Pull back," the Dominion commander ordered. "All ships, pull back." But it was too late. The damage was done. 5 Dominion ships had lost weapon control. 8 more had severe engine damage. 3 had collided with each other, their massive hulls crumpling from impacts their designers never expected them to face. And still, the human ships kept coming. They never stayed still, never presented an easy target. They struck like swarms of wasps against bears, small but precise, each sting carefully placed to cause maximum effect. "This is impossible." The Dominion commander watched another of his ships lose power. "They're not fighting fair." In his command chair, Stone allowed himself a grim smile. "We're not fighting fair. You invaded our space with ships 5 times our size, expecting an easy victory. Now you complain because we won't stand still and let you hit us." The battle continued, but the outcome was already clear. The Dominion's mighty fleet, with all its size and power, was being systematically taken apart by ships they had laughed at just hours before. "All ships," Stone broadcasted to his fleet, "prepare for final attack run. Let's show them what these tiny ships can really do." Chaos reigned among the Dominion fleet. Their massive ships, once arranged in a perfect attack formation, now drifted in disarray. Emergency lights flashed across their purple hulls as crews rushed to repair damaged systems. "Status report," the Dominion commander demanded, his voice shaking with rage. "Sir, 12 ships have lost main weapons, 15 have critical engine damage." And the officer paused. 3 more just lost shield generators. These humans, They know exactly where to hit us. On the main human ship, Captain Stone watched his tactical display. The 30 human vessels continued their precise attack patterns, moving like a well-rehearsed dance team. Not a single human ship had been lost, though a few showed minor damage from near misses. "Begin final attack pattern," Stone ordered. "Remember, we're not here to destroy them. Just make sure they never want to try this again." The human fleet split into 5 groups of 6 ships each. They moved in perfect sync, their gravity drives allowing them to pull off maneuvers that looked more like fighter jets than spaceships. "Look at the size difference," one human pilot called out excitedly. "We're like mosquitoes taking down elephants." Indeed, the battle looked almost comical. Each human ship was so small compared to their targets that the Dominion gunners couldn't track them effectively. It was like trying to hit a hummingbird with a cannon. "How?" the Dominion commander screamed as another of his ships lost power. "How are they doing this?" The answer came from his chief engineer. "Sir, they're ships. They're not just small, they're smart. Every hit targets a critical system. They know our weaknesses." Those weeks of being bullied in the trade lanes hadn't been wasted. Every encounter had given the humans more data about Dominion ship designs. Now they were using that knowledge to devastating effect. "All ships, concentrate fire on Sector 7. The Dominion commander ordered desperately. They can't dodge everything. But they could. The human ships scattered like startled fish, their gravity drives letting them pull turns that would have torn larger ships apart. Where the Dominion ships needed huge stretches of space to turn, the human vessels could spin in place. "Sir," Stone's tactical officer reported, "enemy fleet effectiveness down to 30%. They're starting to break formation." Stone nodded. "Begin Phase 6. Let's show them our real speed." The human ships suddenly accelerated to their full combat speed. They moved so fast, they became blurs on the Dominion sensors. Each pass left another alien ship with damaged weapons, failing engines, or destabilized power cores. "This is impossible." The Dominion commander watched helplessly as his mighty fleet fell apart. "Our ships are bigger, stronger. This shouldn't be happening." But size had become the Dominion's greatest weakness. Their huge ships were perfect targets, too slow to dodge, too clumsy to respond effectively. Every system that made them powerful also made them vulnerable. More power meant more power conduits to damage. More weapons meant more weapon ports to target. "Sir," a Dominion officer shouted, "the humans, they're not even trying to destroy us. They're just disabling us." He was right. The human attacks were precise and calculated. They weren't trying to kill their enemies. They were systematically removing their ability to fight. "All ships," Stone broadcast on an open channel, "target their main bridge viewports. Non-lethal flash charges only." Bright flashes of light burst across the windows of every Dominion ship, temporarily blinding their crews. In those crucial moments, the human ship struck again, targeting the last few operational weapon systems. The battle was effectively over. The mighty Dominion fleet hung in space, most of their ships powerless or barely operational. Not a single ship had been destroyed, but none of them could fight anymore either. Stone opened a channel to the Dominion flagship. "Your ships are disabled, but your life support systems are intact. Would you like to continue this fight, or shall we call it a day?" The silence that followed spoke volumes. The Dominion fleet, which had arrived expecting an easy victory, had been completely defeated by ships they had mocked as tiny just hours before. And they hadn't even seen everything the human fleet could do yet. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. On the massive central display, recordings of the battle played in high definition. Council members watched with wide eyes as the human ships danced between their massive opponents, systematically dismantling a fleet 5 times their size. Head Counselor Davis sat in stunned silence. Next to him, Military Advisor Wilson had stopped taking notes, his tablet forgotten in his lap. The same aliens who had laughed at human ships just months ago now couldn't take their eyes off the screen. Ambassador James Miller stood calmly at the speaking platform, waiting for the recording to finish. He looked exactly as he had during his first visit, professional, composed, and quietly confident. Finally, Davis found his voice. "Ambassador Miller, this is most impressive." "Thank you," Miller replied simply. "We thought it would be helpful for the Council to understand why Earth designs its ships the way it does." Another council member spoke up. But how? Those maneuvers should be impossible. The G-forces alone would kill any crew." Miller nodded to a human engineer who stepped forward with a holographic display. "As a show of good faith, we're willing to share some of our basic gravity manipulation technology with the Council. After all, we're here to trade and cooperate, not to fight." The chamber erupted in excited whispers. The same technology that had just humbled the Dominion fleet was being offered freely. Meanwhile, in deep space, the Dominion commander stood before his own leaders, trying to explain his defeat. "Their ships," he said, his voice shaking. "They moved like nothing we've ever seen. We couldn't hit them. We couldn't stop them. And they didn't even try to destroy us. They just disabled our entire fleet like they were giving us a lesson." In Earth's command center, Admiral Reed read the after-action reports with satisfaction. Not a single human life had been lost. Only 3 ships needed minor repairs. The victory couldn't have been more complete. "Sir," an aide reported, "we're getting messages from 17 different alien races. They all want to discuss trade agreements and technology exchange." Reed smiled. "Send them to Ambassador Miller. I'm sure he'll be happy to meet with them, assuming they don't laugh at our ships this time." Back in the council chamber, Miller was concluding his presentation. "The Dominion fleet has been repaired and returned to their space, with a clear understanding about respecting trade routes. Earth has no desire for war or conquest. We simply want peaceful trade and mutual respect." Head Counselor Davis stood. "Ambassador Miller, the Council owes humanity an apology. We judged your ships by their size, not their capabilities. We were wrong." Miller nodded gracefully. "Apology accepted, Counselor. On Earth, we have many sayings about size. Good things come in small packages. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. And my personal favorite, don't judge a book by its cover." The Council voted unanimously to accept Earth into the Galactic Trade Alliance. As Miller left the chamber, he heard Council members discussing plans to redesign their own ships. Several were already talking about ordering human-designed vessels. In orbit above Earth, Captain Stone watched ships from dozens of alien worlds arriving for trade negotiations. Many were smaller than before. It seemed the lessons of the battle had spread quickly. "Captain," his communications officer called. "Message from a Dominion trade ship. They're requesting permission to establish a regular trading route." Stone smiled. "Permission granted. Remind them of the speed limits in our space. Though I doubt they'll forget." As the sun set over Earth's capital, Miller sat in his office writing his final report. On his screen were images of the new joint human-alien engineering projects already underway. The galaxy was learning that humanity's greatest strength wasn't the size of their ships, but the size of their ideas. He typed one last line. "In the end, they stopped mocking our tiny fleet. Instead, they started copying it."